I heard back from a young guy I met this summer who was trying to lose 50 pounds, I believe to be able to get into the military. And he had started a somewhat vegetarian diet and had already lost some weight. And I got to talking about my all plant-based diet and my running and how about 9 years ago I did a master cleanse fasting. So after quite a bit of discussion, I hear back a couple of days later, get a text, and I was able to sort of help mentor him along through his 10-day fast. And that was a few months ago. Just heard that he did lose 49, 50 pounds and was very, very happy. So here's what this young man had to say. The Master Cleanse fast is the best thing I ever did. It completely got rid of my craving to snack all the time. It really taught me what junk I was putting in my body. I'd recommend it to anyone. And his last comment was pretty cool. It said, "The mind is the hardest part to overcome." 10 years ago, right about now, I had thyroid cancer, and after the 2 surgeries and the radiation treatment, I set about to try to figure out where the cancer came from and how to reduce the risk for recurrence. And often my digging around indicated that I needed to get my weight down, but I was having a really tough time doing that. And I discovered the Master Cleanse through a fellow running buddy. So it would have been nearly 9 years ago, started New Year's Eve at midnight, that I did the 10-day fast. That is the minimum recommended fasting period. A Master Cleanse wasn't created as a weight loss program. It was designed back in the 1940s. Millions of people have done it. It can be safe and effective. So what is the Master Cleanse fast? It's basically a modified juice fast. There's no food really involved, but the basic recipe is at least 6 10-ounce glasses of water per day, but each glass of water will include about 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon or lime, plus about 2 tablespoons of real maple syrup, preferably grade B with no unhealthy additives, and maybe 1/10 of a teaspoon of dried red cayenne peppers. I found those taste horrible, and the longer the pepper sits in the mix, the worse it tastes. I think I made it about 8 days and then dropped the pepper out. In the video description, I'll include several links to more detailed information about the Master Cleanse fast. I mostly want to talk about the experience. Master Cleanse, again, is not a weight loss program per se. It's a body cleanse. The idea is to clean out the inside of the stomach, the gut, the intestines, and basically give the liver and kidneys a break so that they can really purify the body, the blood, cell to cell, top to bottom, the entire body. It's a cleanse. In doing some research about the Master Cleanse, I learned that they recommend you do it during the warmer months. Now, I'm in Ohio. I started January 1st, and I quickly realized why they recommend warmer weather. I was freezing cold. I would put on thermal underwear and sleep with 5 blankets piled on top of me, and I would still be chilly. So ideally, you do it during warm weather. And another interesting tidbit I picked up in my research before starting the fast was, since there will be 0 dairy products going into your body. If you consume dairy, which I had been, you should experience a substantial clearing of the sinuses. And maybe mine was exaggerated because it was January. But I had, on about day 3, a very significant clearing in my head. I could hear it and feel it, which made me realize, after this fast, I cut back almost completely on dairy. A healthy Master Cleanse 10-day fast will include a bowel movement every day, no matter how small, and a laxative tea is allowed or encouraged if that's not happening. It was extremely challenging to make it the entire 10 days. I did, and but it was also a confidence building experience. About the first three days, every day for several hours, I had a low-grade headache. I never took any aspirin or anything, no ibuprofen. It was just part of the detox that people go through. And after a few days into it, it generally becomes a little bit easier, but sleep becomes easier. I was breathing easier through the night because of the mucus from the dairy clearing out of my sinuses. So there was sort of a mental clarity and better sleep that came later in the program. Some people exercised through it. I really didn't. I had pretty low energy those 10 days. Extra things I did to make it even more challenging. One of those was a salt water flush on, I believe that was day 8. And it was very fast and effective. I only took probably less than half of what they recommended that I mix up and consume. Very effective. I won't get into the details, but some pretty old stuff seemed to be coming out. And then on day 9, the evening of day 9, I did a gallbladder cleanse. So again, I'll try to find information on that and put links to it in the description below this video. Every day I was weighing myself more than once, probably too many times, but I wanted to feel like the discomfort was paying off. And it did. I lost almost 2 pounds on average per day. I dropped 18 pounds, and contrary to what Wikipedia says about Master Cleanse, I did not put the weight back on. What's neat about this is if you are awake to what's really going on, it teaches you how to, there's a complete paradigm shift relative to how you think and feel about food. You learn that you can and should go to bed with more of an empty stomach. You'll sleep better. You don't need to eat as big of meals. You need to be more careful about what you're eating. I started thinking of Master Cleanse as essentially the equivalent of the reset button on your computer or TV. It's a human reset button. Is it safe? It just depends, like anything else. If you have no nutritional deficiencies, it can be safe if you do it right. And a lot of people are B12 deficient and they don't know it. So 9 years later, I have a different perspective. Since it's been now almost 4 years that I've gone on a vegan diet, a 100% plant-based diet. So now it's become much easier for me to maintain a far lower weight. Now, going back to early mid-January of 2006, I dropped 18 pounds, and as soon as I started eating, I pretty quickly gained 3 to 5 pounds back. And then slowly some weight came back, but I kept most of that weight off for at least a few months. At that point, for the first time in quite a few years, I was below the upper end of my suggested body mass index. About 4 months after doing that January fast, I was starting to get a little bit above my healthy BMI range, so I opted to do 5 more days of the fast in the spring without the cayenne pepper, and that was very effective. It got me back down to a lower weight, and I stayed there. After going on to the vegan diet in late 2010, I watched a documentary film called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Highly recommend it. And while they never used the word vegan, it basically was a plant-based diet, a vegan juice, organic juice diet that helped people with chronic diseases heal their own disease. The guy who did the Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead film also kind of referenced his juice fast as kind of setting the human reset button, and it's a really good analogy. Now that I've got a few years of running ultra marathons under my belt, and I'm actually weighing a whole lot less now than I did in early 2006. I realize there are quite a few ways to get the job done. The Master Cleanse is a good option. The human body is meant to survive periods of famine for some length of time. So there are some benefits to that deprivation, mental as well as physical. Honestly, for me, it was so unpleasant going that long without eating. That in itself is an incentive to keep my proportion sizes smaller. Even though I'm running marathons and all the way up to 100 miles distance, I don't need much more than about 1,900 to 2,000 calories per day. And now that I'm eating more organic vegan food, that total calorie intake can be less, and I can still get the necessary nutrients. So I've learned to, if I really need to drop some weight, I can just do a 1-day tea fast, or I can just trim back on my meal sizes, eat more air-popped popcorn, and drink, a minimal amounts of organic juice with lots of leafy greens included. Let me rephrase that. Typically, I would drink vegan smoothies because your body generally needs that fiber. So do your own due diligence. Realize that most medical professionals, even most nutritionists, really don't know what they're talking about completely. Doing the Master Cleanse fast was one of the best things I ever did. It was a huge baby step to get me where I am now at age 52, feeling the best I felt in decades. Recently did a first 100-mile endurance run, kicking around the idea of maybe doing 3 of them next year. My vision's improved, everything's better. As I looked at some of the stuff on the internet about Master Cleanse, even on Wikipedia, I think it was on Wikipedia, I had to laugh when they suggested dehydration could be one of the effects of this program. Absolutely ridiculous. You can drink an unlimited amount of that lemonade, but quite frankly, after a while you get tired of going to the bathroom to pee.